Well, as you've just heard from Penny's introduction, Christiane Northrup has a lot of real experience as a medical doctor. She's one of my favorite authors out there. She's the author of 9 fantastic books anyone can access on Amazon, including a book that I think is very important called A Mom's Guide to the COVID Shot. She is world famous for her work in women's health, vaccine awareness, and was one of Biden's Big 12 that was radically censored so the public couldn't learn the truth they needed to be aware of to make intelligent, informed, rational decisions regarding how to take care of themselves and their families during the plandemic. It's an honor to have her here to share her wisdom with us today, and I've been waiting for an opportunity to have a beautiful dialogue with her for many years. So welcome, Christiane. It's just a beautiful blessing to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here, Paul. Really, it is. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for all the amazing work you've done. I've been reading your books for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, I've been a therapist for 41 years, and I was trying to remember when's the first time I read one of Christiane Northrup's books. And I spent many years studying the hormonal system. And I'm sure you probably remember Diana Schwartzbein's books.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So back then when I was studying her books, I also had your book, one of your big books, I think it's Black, on women's health.
Mm-hmm.
And I dealt with a lot of women going through hormone replacement and menopausal problems and all sorts of stuff that women go through, a lot of endometriosis. It seemed like I had a long, endless string of endometriosis patients.
Yep.
And so you were one of my go-to authors and doctors because I found what you shared to be very grounded and not your typical, I'm lost in the medical drug world and I don't think for myself. I just recapitulate.
Right.
So, to have you here is quite cool because I feel like I've been in a relationship with you for many years without actually getting to talk to you. And I remember seeing you on Oprah and going, oh, that's the lady that wrote the book I read, So to begin with, as famous as you are, I'm sure, my podcast is listened to in last count 172 countries. So there might be people that don't really know who you are. Maybe you could give us background information on you, your education, your professional career. And I'd love maybe to tail that off with what your worldview is and how have you come within yourself to perceive life and what's going on here, since our conversation today is going to get into some pretty important issues about exactly that.
Right. Okay. Well, I came from a family that was quite health oriented. We were brought up on Adele Davis, let's eat right to stay fit. And we had a compost heap, and my dad was a dentist. We would call him holistic. His brother and sister were medical doctors. So that's Aunt Harriet and Uncle Robert. And so every Thanksgiving dinner was kind of like an AMA meeting, but they made fun of my father because he wasn't a real doctor, right?
Uh-huh.
But, Aunt Harriet was a pediatrician and Uncle Robert was a general practitioner. And then the big watershed moment for me was that a sister died. She was 6 months old, wouldn't eat. No one knew what that was about. And I had named her because I was about 5 when she was born. And they had put my mother on high dose streptomycin for, if you look back, viral pneumonia. Whole family went to Fort Lauderdale, for the sun cure and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So she has that baby that looks normal, but wouldn't eat. And that baby died in a pool of her own vomit. It was at a time when you couldn't hold your baby. You could only look behind a big window, so this would be back in the 50s, 60s.
Yes.
Then my brother Bill was born. He wouldn't eat. And when he was about, and they couldn't say why, and when he was about a year old, he weighed 10 pounds. 10 pounds.
Wow.
My mother and dad signed him out of the hospital against medical advice because no one knew what was going on. And imagine this would never happen today. A nurse, AKA an angel of God,
yes,
came up to my mother and said, if I were you, I'd get him out of here. The doctors don't know what's going on. And so my parents signed him out against medical advice. and then they fed him every hour on the hour with a nasogastric tube. My dad had been an oral surgeon in a MASH unit in World War II, so he had no problem putting down a nasogastric tube. Finally, they find a doctor, Dr. Crump, at Women's Medical in Philadelphia, who was a pioneer in pediatric endoscopy. She puts a light down there and says his esophagus is so eroded, it's going to rupture if you don't take the tube out. So they took the tube out, and then the doctor said, imagine this, Paul. Let's just see what happens. Benign neglect. After 3 days, they started to feed him orange juice. That's the dumbest thing on the planet, that acid, if you've got an eroded esophagus. But he would take a drink, scream, and take another drink because he was hungry.
Yeah.
And, my mother brings him home on the airplane. We all go to meet the plane. He's holding a roll and he's eating. First time I'd ever seen him eat, the first time I ever saw him without adhesive tape on his face, holding in a nasogastric tube. Now, my mother had been told he's mentally retarded. That was a term we used in those days. I know that now we have to say developmentally delayed, as though it's coming down the pike at some point. And that, that something was wrong with him because of the way he cried. Her maternal instinct had not been eroded by too much medicalization. So she knew they were wrong. And so then my brother, grows up. He now runs an international HVAC business. But when I was going to medical school, I love the way God works. I'm going to medical school and I interviewed at the University of Buffalo. Who do you suppose my interviewer was? My brother's doctor, the attending physician when my brother was a baby.
Oh, my God.
He goes, so are you from those Ellicottville Northrups? That's my little town south of Buffalo. Yes, I am. And, you could tell he remembered the case. And, well, how's your brother doing? And I wanted to say he's doing very well. No thanks to you.
Right.
And so then I decided to go to medical school only because it was a better degree than a PhD. Honest, I had no intention of practicing. Mm-hmm. When I was at Yale Medical School, now remember, I interviewed in a bunch of places. I ended up going to Dartmouth Medical School. But when I'm at the Yale Medical School, I then drive home. My dad has gone into Buffalo General with chest pain. And so I come home and my mother has signed him out of the hospital against medical advice. He's got the chest leads hanging off him. He calls her. He says, Edna, come and get me. They don't know what's going on. The nurses are mad, because he's not doing what they're telling. And they wouldn't bring a wheelchair. So he's walking out literally with chest leads. He's got an arm all blown up from an infiltrated IV and a fever. And I come home from my interview. He's sitting up in his chair with fluid 2/3 of the way up in his lung fields because he can't lie down because he had infectious pericarditis. He did not have a heart attack and he knew it. So imagine this, Paul. I am now interviewing at medical schools whilst watching how the medical system is not serving my family. So
it's trying to kill your family.
So I say to my mother while ironing, I'm going to go to medical school, but I just want to find out why doctors don't talk to you. That's basically
so you can fix that?
So I just thought, I just want to see what's the training like and, and all of the rest of it. And I never intended to practice. Then I saw a baby born and I nearly fell to my knees with pain-filled joy, joy-filled pain, like I had never seen anything so holy or so beautiful. And the nurse is yelling at the medical student, who was named David Sunday. I remember to this day. He removes the Kelly clamp from the umbilical cord. So it's flying around like a tiny little, fire hose. And it's splashing the walls and the nurse is yelling. And I am thinking, I must have been like in the fifth dimension or something. I said, there is no place in this room for anything that isn't holy. So I don't understand what they're doing. So nothing had ever moved me like that. And so in that moment, I wanted to do one of two things, OBGYN or family medicine. Now, I was
Mm.
thinking that I could do family medicine because then you could do everything, but I
Mhm.
ended up doing obstetrics and gynecology because it was felt like breathing, being with pregnant women, standing by, lying in, all of that just felt like what I was designed by God to do. And
Mm.
then I met my husband. He was my surgical intern at Dartmouth. And so he went to Boston to do an orthopedic fellowship. I went to do my OBGYN residency. Then we both moved to Maine to be in the place we wanted to be. Now, at the time, and this is funny, Paul, um, my male partners at the practice I joined in Maine, they said, "Well, the women in Maine don't want to see women." And I thought, that's weird. In Boston, they want to see women. I mean, I had the sort of like the golden ticket at that time.
Yeah.
There were no women in OBGYN, just very, very few. And, someone said, "We come to Greenwich, Connecticut. You could have the carriage trade of Greenwich." And I thought, I don't want the carriage trade of anything. So came to Maine, and then I joined the board of the American Holistic Medical Association around the same time that I met Michio Kushi, who
Oh,
brought,
Michio Kushi, cool.
yeah, so Michio and I would sit in on Michio's consultations. And these people would come in with, their charts in a shopping cart. That's how
Mm.
big their
Yeah.
charts were, and many of them had cancer, and the medical profession had told them, "Go home, put your affairs in order, you're dying." And then I would
Mm.
watch Michio doing what he called Oriental diagnosis. Again, folks, for those of you who think political correctness, we can't call them Oriental. That's what it was called. You could get an Oriental medical degree. And so I watched Micho, and many people got better. And I started to give lectures with the guy who started the Framingham Heart Project,
Oh,
Bill
yeah.
Castelli, remember? And he
Mhm.
would show slides of monkeys recovering completely from cardiovascular disease. And he would say, "We know how to reverse cardiovascular disease in this country. The problem is you have to be a monkey."
I've studied Michio Kuchi's work. He was really the founder of macrobiotics, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was George Osawa in Japan, and
I
then
studied his
Michio.
stuff. I've got it in my library.
Yeah, right, right. We're probably the only two people in the world who have this stuff. So I would sit there with Michio, and then I watched people's faces change within 2 weeks of being
Wow.
on a whole food diet.
That's great.
Yeah, and here's the deal. Macrobiotics, all it means, folks, it doesn't mean brown rice. It means eating what is grown in the here and now in order to be in the here and now. So a macrobiotic
Mm.
diet, if you're an Inuit in northern Alaska, is
Includes
whale blubber, right?
and flesh, yeah.
And flesh. Yeah, yeah.
90% of their diet is fat and flesh.
Yeah, and it needs to be because
Yeah.
it's cold. Because it's cold. Now, if you're at the you're on the equator,
Yeah.
pineapple and banana, good idea. So that was my introduction. And what happened as a result is that when I then finished my residency and came up to Maine, the entire macrobiotic community of Boston, because that's where Micho was at the East West Foundation, they'd all come to see me because I didn't make fun of them. And I
Yeah.
knew what they were trying to do with, quote,
Mhm.
the quality of their blood because I was
Mhm.
brought up on whole organic food.
Yes.
And so it just was sort of a natural thing. But what I noticed is that most people couldn't maintain the diet that strictly. And for women,
Yeah.
after about 7 to 8 years on that with no animal food, their nails would start to split, their hair would get thin. It didn't work. They needed some animal protein. And of course, with the work of the Weston Price
Yes.
Foundation, the traditional diets of every place in the world contain some animal protein.
Yeah,
So
those are also symptoms of hypothyroidism.
yes, exactly. So anyhow, that was, sort of my beginning. And then, so I was on the board of the American Holistic Medical Association, and Norm Shealy founded that organization in
Mm-hmm.
1979. And Norm said, as a neurosurgeon, we'd have a lot less back pain and other spinal problems if we had fewer neurosurgeons. And so I tried to combine the two things. And Norm worked with Carolyn Mace, the very famous medical
Oh
and
yes, yeah. Now
and,
I remember.
number, yeah. And so, I worked with Carolyn, and she wrote a book called Why People Don't Heal. And
I've studied it.
yes, and because you and I, you tell people everything that they need to do,
And they
but
don't
they
do
don't
it.
do anything good. And okay, so for me, the sort of watershed moment was PMS. Okay, 1982, Family Circle magazine comes out with a big article on premenstrual syndrome. And so I laugh and said, the medical journal Family Circle talks about PMS. And so I began to be looked into it because it's a lifestyle thing. I said to
Yeah.
myself, if God designed, how did God, the creator of the universe and our bodies made in the image of God, how is it possible that 80%, 60% of women would suffer around a completely normal cycle that is responsible for all human life on the planet? Like, what
Yes.
is wrong with this picture? And so
Yes.
women would get better. You change their diet, you do all, but they could only stick with it for about 3 months, and then they'd fall off the wagon. Well, then I
Mm.
began to realize that every one of those people were like the adult children of alcoholics, even though
Mm.
they weren't. And then we found I think it was the 80s, Vincent Felitti did the Adverse Childhood Experiences study out of UC San Diego, where
Mm-hmm.
he found in a huge cohort of middle aged, middle income, mostly white people, there was a one-to-one relationship between the number of adverse childhood experiences that they had and their pharmaceutical drug use, their emergency room visits, and premature death. And
Mm.
this was started by UC San Diego by Vincent Felitti in the weight loss clinic,
Mm.
where he said people would be successfully losing weight and they would stop. And he
Mm-hmm.
wondered why. And he then heard a young woman, 18 years old, overweight is overlooked, and that's what I need to be. And she had been raped and gained 100 pounds
Yeah.
the ensuing year. So he began to look at what is going on in the biography, because Carolyn Mace said this one, biography becomes your biology.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so then I began to look at that. And then finally, after all of my experience of women sitting on the couch in my office and telling me the truth about their lives. Now, remember, I've got now middle class, mostly white women in a small town in Maine,
Mm-hmm.
and they're telling me about the rapes, the abuse, and
Mm-hmm.
and my colleagues are saying, well, you see all the nutcases, we only see normal women. And then
Right. Well, they don't talk to them.
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, just as like, yeah, because people will tell you what's going on. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say, tell me what's going on. And then I realized nobody, okay, you were there, Paul, so if you said let's say that you wanted to look up the life patterns of what goes on to create uterine problems or
Mm-hmm.
cervical problems or ovarian problems or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
In the databases, then you'd say, cervix or vagina, and you'd go to the holistic sources and they would say, see Kundalini. And I thought, I'm seeing an awful lot of abnormal pap smears and an awful lot of warts and stuff long before we get to Kundalini. So
Right.
what so that's why I wrote Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, because my working hypothesis was that the experience of being female in this culture, and by the way, I'm also talking about the emotional nature of men. Let's call it the feminine, the feeling, the emotional nature in this culture gets so pummeled that these are the diseases that are the body's language to talk about the distress. So these are the experiences, and this is what happens. So, 60% of women having a hysterectomy by the age of 60, 1 in 8 getting breast cancer, 80% having menstrual cramps, all of that stuff. Because we are not designed, as you know, because this is your life's work. We are
Hmm.
not designed to deteriorate with age. We're not designed to have menopause be the end of
No.
your sex life and the end of strong bones. This is
Yeah.
all cultural. And that's
Yeah.
why I wrote Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom. And then later, as I approached menopause, I wrote The Wisdom of Menopause because I got what that was about. Oh, I see. You're at a crossroads, grow or die.
Have you ever wondered why we dream? Well, materialistic neuroscience considers dreams merely an epiphenomenon of brain activity. Throughout antiquity, native cultures the world over recognized dreams as very important and paid close attention to them. In some cultures, such as the Aboriginal culture, tribal members would meet around the campfire each morning and share their dreams. Whenever there was a convergence of dream messages amongst tribal members, the dreams were decoded by the shaman and elders and taken as serious guidance. Sigmund Freud developed a system of dream analysis, which Carl Jung expanded on significantly. Jung felt that dreams are the language of the soul, but because the soul communicates in symbol, metaphor, and analogy, it takes knowledge, skill, and practice to effectively interpret dreams. As a holistic health practitioner, I've spent over 40 years helping people heal from almost any challenge we can have. This includes issues such as unresolved grief from the loss of a loved one, a midlife crisis, a health crisis, addictions of many types, depression, anxiety, ADHD, OCD, chronic pain, and much more. To get to the root issues behind people's challenges, I chose to spend countless hours taking courses in dream interpretation, studying books about it, learning symbology and mythology, and practicing different systems of dream assessment. I have found consistently that whenever our ego is too busy, overwhelmed with life events and challenges, or we fear the truth, the soul will use dreams to get messages past the firewall of the ego. If we don't understand these often important messages, we tend to continue the same thinking, relating, and behavior patterns that led the soul to communicate by dreams in the first place. Sadly, this often results in the emergence of a crisis that could have been avoided by learning to interpret our dreams. My clients have often been shocked and amazed at the accuracy and profundity of what their dreams reveal. They can tell of the onset or resolution of health challenges, challenges in key relationships and what they are leading to, what is delaying psychological and spiritual growth and development, big changes on the way, such as a career change. Sometimes dreams can be prophetic, telling you what to avoid or what direction to go in your life so you can live and love more fully. Beginning October 31st through November 21st, I will offer my How to Interpret and Respond to Your Dreams workshop. This workshop will be conducted one session a week for 3 hours over 4 weeks for a total of 12 hours of practical training. Participants will receive a comprehensive handout and my master sheet for dream interpretation that has all the aspects of a dream that need to be considered in the interpretation process. Within the class, we will not only learn and practice many different approaches to effective dream interpretation. Class participants will be invited to share their dreams, and I will work with them to interpret them so we can all learn and grow together and become proficient at interpreting the messages from our soul. If you'd like to learn more about or register for my How to Interpret and Respond to Your Dreams workshop, which runs October 31st through November the 2nd, go to paulchek.com/events/dream. That's paulchek.com/events/dream. This workshop is ideal for any healthcare professional, Chek professional, or therapist that wants to help people get to the core issues of life and health challenges, and for anyone high school age or older that wants to develop a better relationship with their soul and gain effective guidance from their dreams.
I look forward to an amazing, highly informative workshop with each of you that feel called to interpret and understand your dreams, the language of the soul.
Yeah. Accept yourself. On that note, one of the things that I observed in my career and still do is that women's beauty is the correlate of a man's physical strength. And when a man ages and starts to lose his physical strength, he starts to feel insecure inside of himself. And then there's coping mechanisms like,
Yeah.
a Corvette and two 25-year-old girlfriends,
Yeah.
and leave your wife and your kids, and hope that God will ignore that. But then in the women, as they lose their physical beauty and their magnetism, and they don't have as much, attractive power, they go through the same type of insecurity. And so I found myself forever talking to women about, look, you're externalizing your soul. Your real magnetism is your heart. It's your love. It's your passion for life. It's who you really are. Not, otherwise you're going to fall into the plastic surgery trap. I said, the secret is to transfer the power from your beauty to your wisdom, and know that you're a valuable source of wisdom for others and to help others. And I said, quit trying to attract 25-year-old men to yourself. Don't you want to attract wise, intelligent men that can really, meet you where you're at, instead of these, young guys that are still talking about their bench press in the locker room, And so I saw this same psychological challenge, but for men, it was losing their strength, and for women, it was losing their beauty. And it created a hell of a crisis and led to a lot of really crazy shit. I think the whole life extension movement that started back, what's the people's name that wrote that 5,000 page book that weighs 10 pounds?
Sandy and whatever. Remember the guy, and he always wore a collar with the spikes on it. Dirk somebody.
Yes.
Sandy, whatever. Yeah.
So I saw that, I said, this is what happens when you don't have a spiritual relationship with God and you're afraid to die.
That's right.
What you try to do is turn yourself into a plastic robot so you'll live forever, which paradoxically, look what's going on right now.
I know.
Things haven't gotten better in our lives. They've gotten worse, even though we've tried so hard to educate people. Another thing that I wanted to share with you, because it goes hand in hand with what you're saying, to graduate from my academy system, which is a 5-year training program, and it's multidisciplinary. So it's medical doctors, chiropractors, osteopaths, everybody, even people making a career change. You have to do a thesis that I approve of. And one of my students, I can't remember her name right now. She lives in Vancouver, British Columbia, really sharp lady. And she was probably 50 at the time she did this thesis, but her thesis was on menopause. And she did a worldwide literature search on menopause and looked at the different cultural approaches and experience of menopause. And I read her thesis word for word. And one of the things she showed was very interesting. It's only in the West that women have all these terrible symptoms.
Yep.
But in many, many more native cultures, they didn't even know it was happening.
Or also your status improves.
So, yeah, because they were considered wise.
Yeah, that's right. And they retained their sacred blood.
Yeah.
So I had a patient who went to China, postmenopausal. She had hip pain in the United States. When she went to China, she was so revered as an older woman. Her hip pain, she had none.
There you go.
Oh, they like me. I guess I don't have to suffer.
I have another question for you. I have a feeling you'll know about this book. Did you ever remember a book called Holistic Nutrition by Rudolph Ballantyne, MD?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Well, I'm going to tell you a short story about that book. I hated reading in school. Me and school weren't good friends. I failed reading in the 3rd grade. I had to go to summer school or they were going to not let me go forward. And I managed to I left school. I finished the 9th grade. I couldn't stand school because I couldn't get any of my questions answered. It would just piss me off. I'm like, why am I here? You can't answer any of my questions.
Right.
And I get chewed out for asking questions. And I'd never read a book in my life, cover to cover. I read lots of Playboys. I read lots of hot rod magazines. You know, I built race cars and you know, I was a trained mechanic. So I would read technical stuff that would help me do what I wanted to do. But I never actually read a book cover to cover until one day, my mother, who's a yogi and very holistic, somehow I came across the book Holistic Nutrition by Rudolph Ballantyne. And I started reading and I thought, wow, this is really interesting. On the bus, when I was in the Army, I was on the Army's running team. We were at the Pentagon competing in an international military event where the top runners from different branches of the military came to compete in a 10-mile running race. On the way home, I finished, which was, I think, 473 pages or something. And I stood up in the bus and yelled, "Yay, I did it." And everyone turned around and looked at me and they said, "What did you do?" I said, "I just finished the first book of my life." And they all cracked up laughing. That was the first book that interested me enough to read cover to cover. And it really put the foundation under me thinking about nutrition holistically, other than, you know, my mother's and father's like holistic farm raised stuff. But anyhow, I just wanted to share those two sort of interesting observations. The menopause thing, because I found that was amazing. Like I didn't realize that when you go into other cultures, that the way women go through menopause, how it affects them physically, emotionally, and psychologically is very, very different from our culture. And so it made me realize that was one of my sort of dinging the bell that there's nothing more powerful than the psyche.
That's it. And, you know, my friend, Dr. Mario Martinez, who started the Biocognitive Institute, points out that cultural portals are more powerful than our biology. So I'll give you an example. Age 35 for a woman, if she hasn't yet had a child, then she buys the idea that her eggs are old and she should freeze them and all the rest of it, as though at age 34 and 8 months, you're perfectly fertile, no problem. You turn 35, you fall off the cliff. Another one is age 65. That was chosen as the retirement age by Otto von Bismarck in Germany, so that the pensioners would have about 2 years of rest before they died, because the average life expectancy was 67 in 1880.
Wow.
Made that the retirement age. And what it does is it puts this idea in your head that at 65, you should be retired, you're washed up, whatever it is. And depending on what retirement means to you, like New York City policemen, when they retire,
they get fat.
They get fat or they get dead.
Yeah.
Because they have no more meaning. I mean, if your meaning is that you are a warrior, that you're a militant peacemaker, and suddenly you've got no job. I watched this, by the way, and I'll never forget it, because this is how my life goes. I'm a young resident. I'm at St. Margaret's Hospital for Women in Boston on Dorchester Hill. And on Saturdays and Sundays, the retired OBGYNs would come in. They didn't have any patients there. They would just read the paper. They just come in to read the paper. And I thought, oh, I know what happened here. They donated their entire lives to their profession. They were never home for holidays or whatever. They used the excuse always of they had to work. And now they're retired and they haven't developed any outside interests. Their families are not interested in them because they were never there. And I remember it. And I thought, let this be a lesson. You're looking at these guys at the end of their careers and they don't know what to do with themselves on a weekend except come back into the hospital.
Yeah, it's like a story that Osho tells. He talks about how there was a maximum security prison in a small town in India, and the town went financially bankrupt. And they said the town hall meeting, that the what do you call it? You know, the mayor and the people that run the town got together and said, look, you know, we can't afford to keep this prison going. We have no money. And they determined that everybody in the prison had done at least 20 years. There was nobody in there that hadn't done at least 20 years. So they said, we should just let them all go, Just, there's nothing, what else can we do? We can't feed them. We can't afford security guards. So, they're going to die in there.
Yeah, yeah.
So they agreed to let them go. So the prison warden went and sent the guards to unlock their shackles. They all had wrist shackles and ankle shackles, and they opened the gates and said, you can leave. We're letting you go. You've done enough time. We can't afford to feed you and take care of you anymore. Here's the punchline. They came back the next day to start cleaning the prison up, and every single one of them had come back and put their shackles on. And they said, what in the world are you doing? You are free. And they said, we don't know what to do. We can't sleep without our shackles. We've never been free before. And we don't know how to live. We don't know, we don't know how to work. We don't know what else to do. So they all came and reshackled themselves and went back into their cells.
There it is.
Isn't that amazing? That shows you the power of the mind.
It sure doesn't. Plato's cave, same thing.
Yeah, there it is. Plato's cave. Exactly. And wow, we could go on a long talk about that, because I've read some very interesting philosophical, shall we say, viewpoints on the fact that Plato's allegory in Plato's cave is actually what political leaders worldwide use to create television and media to keep us in Plato's cave. And it was actually thought to be a treatise written for the very wealthy to control people.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. And, well, I just rewatched The Matrix. I hadn't seen it in years.
I've been thinking about that myself.
And I watched the thing, and, Paul, I saw stuff I never saw before. I said, oh, my God, talk about prescient, talk about predictive programming. That one, and also Men in Black.
Yeah, that's a little funnier.
I know it is.
I remember when I first watched The Matrix, I spent like 5 days in a state of meditation. It was like, this isn't just a movie, this is a message.
Yeah. And so
now look what's going on.
Yeah. So if you look at, remember the scene, all of you who've seen it, where we have all of these fetuses, all of these like babies in utero, and they're in these tiers. And the whole matrix is run on the energy of these humans. Well, the truth is that is because we have a system that keeps us under control by what's called parasitism.
Yes.
And whether that is in relationship, whether it's in your finances, whatever it is, our energy as beings made in the image of God, we have to make sure people don't know who they are so that we can keep parasiting their energy to run these big systems like the media, like big pharma, that keep us stuck in the fear loop.
And then really the key driver behind that is fear of death. And anybody who has a deep, intimate relationship with God comes to the realization God cannot possibly die, and your soul is God inside of you. So you lose your body, but you don't die.
That's right. I have a good friend, Daniel Brinkley. You might have read Daniel's book way back, Saved by the Light. Daniel was a Marine assassin and was on the phone one night in 1975, struck by lightning. So lightning comes right down. This is the corded phone of the olden days. Goes and it melts his rivets in his boots. And he was dead. He was dead for 30 minutes.
Wow.
And so he was one of the very first guys to put the near-death experience on the map. He worked with Ray Moody. Anyway, Daniel has had, as a result of being electrocuted in his whole body and having a lot of damage, he's had 2 other deaths. And he says, here's the thing. You're never more alive than when you're dead.
No question.
That's what he said. So there's nothing to fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had my own near-death experiences. I won't bore you with the details, but let's just say that I've had some pretty bad accidents, and one racing motocross, and I was actually training, and we were racing on logging roads, and they had piled a pile of logs to load onto logging trucks And since the last time we were out there, they weren't there before, but my buddy was ahead of me and it was in summer. So there was so much dust coming off his back wheel, I couldn't see. He swerved around the logs and I didn't see them and drove straight into the back end of a pile of logs, 14 feet, 10, probably 12 feet high.
Yow.
At full speed, as fast as my motorcycle would go, because it was a long straightaway. And I was in a coma for 2 days and got my body all tore up, completely destroyed my motorcycle, pretty much just flattened the front end right. But anyhow, the point is I could tell you many such stories, but that and deep plant medicine ceremonies where I was so far gone, I didn't even know if I was ever going to get home. Thank God I have a connection with my soul. So I've spent plenty of time out there talking to God about how do I get back to my body?
Oh, man.
Which is all great. But, this is like such a fascinating career. You know what I'm really most impressed with is your ability to retain common sense and think rationally and not let yourself get programmed. How did you deal with what must have been the constant backlash for not following the zeitgeist of the medical system? Because clearly you didn't. Hello, everybody. I sure hope you're enjoying the podcast as much as I am. I got something really cool to share with you. I think all of you know I'm not a biohacking type guy at all. I'm a bioharmonizer. Not too long ago, my buddy Aubrey Marcus turned me on to something really cool called Correct Fuel. And it's a great way to enhance your workout, support your metabolism, and just get more out of everything that you're doing. And not only that, for a product with ketone metabolites in it, it tastes damn good, which is hard to do. I'm super excited about it. And I really love knowing that I can take something that's good for me and good for my body and will help me lift bigger stones and have a better workout and show the young man how to do it. So, Aubrey, congratulations on such an amazing product. What would you like to share with the audience just so they know more about how it works and anything specific you think is important to share?
Competitive athletics has been a part of my life since I was a kid. And there's certain things that we deplete ourselves of when we're sweating, when we're out in the sun. For me, it's pickleball or basketball or volleyball, beach volleyball. So I wanted to start with an electrolyte mix that I really felt captured the main electrolytes like you would get in a normal electrolyte packet: magnesium, potassium, calcium. Replenish your body with that. But I know that that's not enough. I wanted to have all of the trace minerals that come from sea salt. We actually took an extract called aquamin, which comes from the sea. So we're getting all of those trace minerals as well as those core electrolytes. And then adding those exogenous ketones, the GoBHB, that actually give you the ketone energy, which is the second fuel source for the body. So it increases your mental clarity and acuity, especially for, athletic sports where you're paying attention. That's super important to have that kind of mental clarity, as well as physical energy that you get. And to round this all out, we found an extract actually from, green beans that actually increases the body's ability to burn our own fat as fuel. So while this isn't designed for anything for weight loss, it's designed to maximize energy. But what if we could put all this together, make it taste great, and then allow people to actually push as hard as they want to push, whether that's athletically or whether that's just restoring your body after you've sweat through the night and lost.
Or cleaning your house.
Clean your damn house. Make your damn bed.
Yeah. Well, I love it. It's awesome. And, I'm very shy, as you know, about anything biohack-like. And I really say you've done a great job with Correct Energy and Correct Fuel of bioharmonizing. So I tip my hat to you, brother. And
Thank
for
you,
any
sir.
of you that wants to try Correct Fuel, go to korrectlife.com/Spirit Gym. Get 15% off your first order. And while you're there, check out Correct Energy too. Aho, great spirit. Thanks, Aubrey.
You're welcome.
No, I didn't. And I did things, Paul, that now seem normal to people. But I remember this, the first time I ever put a baby on the mother's abdomen, right? I mean, look, in the wild, if you did things to animals that we do to humans, the mother would reject the cubs or whatever every time. So I remember the first time I did this, I take the baby out and I put it on the mother's abdomen. And my attending physician says, well, she touched your glove. You're no longer sterile. And I said, Dr. McGovern, in all due respect, the baby just came out of the vagina, and the only way to sterilize it is to boil it. And,
That's perfect. I would have paid $1,000 times 10 to be sitting there and see the look on that doctor's face.
well, see, they can't refute it. And the deal is this, though. Okay, in Corinthians it says, if you have not love, you're a banging cymbal and you're this and that. The truth is, I always loved my colleagues. And so I always just tried to work within the system. When I was a new resident at St. Margaret's, they were giving everyone a spinal. First, they did twilight sleep, Seconal and scopolamine. Everyone turned into a wild animal. But then we had Suzanne Arms coming in, because this was the 70s, with the book, The Immaculate Deception, right? Like, we've really got to check the way we're doing births. And so I would just do natural births. The nurses were always against me, but I would, I'd work with the patients and try to work with the team always. And there's no question, I always pushed it kind of as far as I could. And it kind of worked because the whole culture was going along with it. We had the women's movement, and we had empowerment. I remember when the home pregnancy test came out, the doctors were up in arms. Well, no woman is ever going to be able to handle this, or fathers in the delivery room. That was huge. The old guard OBs did not want that to happen, because then they had no control.
That's terrible.
Yeah, but that's how it was. So I was just with the zeitgeist of the whole thing. But let me be very clear. Okay, I've had 8 lawsuits. I got my first one my 3rd year of residency, because something got stuck in this woman's bladder, and everyone in the room gets sued. That's the way it's done. It's like
we have more money.
Yeah, that's right. And so I had a lawsuit, at least one, always going between the 3rd year of my residency until 1992.
Wow.
Always something going. And then when I did the PBS specials, I'd get sued for stuff that I said on PBS. So let's just say I was in the crucible my whole career, really. And that's why when 2020 hit, it's like God had been preparing me.
Yeah. You're like, you can't slay this dragon. Give it your best shot.
That's right. I'm like David out there practicing with the rocks and the slings, while I'm guarding the sheep.
Yeah.
So when Goliath comes along, it's like, yeah, okay, I'm not afraid of you.
Yeah. And it's great. I have a book. I can't remember the exact title, but it's by a Canadian medical doctor that got sued by the Canadian Medical Association. And I wish I could remember the name of it. It's a really good book, but it documents her whole long drawn out lawsuit. She actually won the lawsuit, but it took her years to do it. Are you familiar with the documentary about Harry Hoxie's life? It's called Hoxie.
Oh yeah, there's so many of those. That's the thing. We've got Cooley's toxins. We've got, or as Linus Pauling used to say, what we're not up on, we tend to be down on. And and he won 2 Nobel Prizes for his work in biochemistry. And then he started to study vitamin C. We can't have that. We can't have that. And I remember listening to Andrew Saul at the beginning of the COVID thing, and he was using massive doses of vitamin C to cure people. And by the way, every single case of polio that they treated with vitamin C in the 1940s got better. Every single case.
Wow.
So Linus Pauling started to study vitamin C, and then, oh no, he must be demented, because that's how it works. If they don't like what you're doing,
they attack you.
They attack the character, and they smear your character, and they're very, very good at it by inserting doubt. And then, then you get the crowd going along with whatever, that's how it works.
Have you ever had any past life regressions?
Yeah, lots of them. I mean, but no, none where I was living the past life. The latest one I did, which was funny, was with a woman who had trained with um, Dolores Cannon. So
Uh-huh.
I went to see her here in Maine.
Yeah, well, that's a
Okay,
good source.
and so she's doing the whole, hypnotic thing, and you're really awake. And
Yeah.
okay, here's the lifetime that I remembered. I am the head of the pilgrim thing in Plymouth, Massachusetts, right? I'm like the guy running the Plymouth plantation. And I don't know what we have going on, but what I said was, oh my God, these people are hopeless. It's like, so it's almost like God put me right back with the founding fathers again. Listen, we're trying to create a constitutional republic here where everyone has the right to religious freedom and to determine what gets injected into their bodies. Because here's the thing, the medical system, as Daniel Brinkley says, the battle for the soul of humanity is being fought in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am, in 2020, not saying anything different than I've ever said for my whole career. But it was like a different time, the spirit of fear, they were getting out of the box, Paul. I mean, they were
Mm-hmm.
waking up, and so we can't have that. So they had to do this big spirit of fear thing. And I realized that my narrative, my knowing, was literally the tip of the spear. And the tip of the spear is called a syringe.
Yes. I'm going to share something with you just because I love you. I'm clairvoyant,
Uh-huh.
and I was curious about who you really are.
Right.
So I looked at you clairvoyantly.
Yeah, who am I?
There's a woman in your field that stands behind you, which is one of your past incarnations.
Mm-hmm.
She's dressed in a ceremonial gown, very beautiful, a white gown with golden threads in it and little, almost like pearls, but made of fine gold. And you're holding a staff that's gold with a snake spiraling around it, and its head's to touch a star that's bursting, and it's all made out of gold, and that's in your right hand. In your left hand, you're holding a scroll, and on your head, you've got a crown made of gold. And so I said to my soul, I need to know what I'm seeing. And my soul said, Christiane Northrup, a high priestess, was one of the chief people that initiated people she was one of the oracles of Delphi in the Ulyssean mysteries, and that you used to develop the sacred medicines to take them into this experience to learn who they really were, which, as you know, were kept secret.
Yep.
And so you were one of the priestess of the Ulyssean mysteries, but something from the Oracle of Delphi came in there as well. But that doesn't surprise me at all. I because you have the energy of stop bullshitting me. I know the truth.
Yes, said with great love.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't typically tell people that. There's been a couple of times where shared with people on the podcast what I saw, and it usually has quite a tie to who they really are. And in some cases, like Robert Gilbert, before I went on the podcast with him, fortunately, he recently died. When I told him what I saw, he almost cried. He said, Paul, you're seeing one of the high priests because he was an initiate of the Rosicrucian order. And he said, you're describing exactly the people that have been guiding me for many lifetimes. But I don't normally share that. I just did it because you're such an authentic, unique person for a medical doctor, which is why I wanted to talk to you, because it's real. There's very few medical doctors that I would want to send my patients to, and there are some good ones, but boy, I've had battle after battle with medical doctors my whole career. I'm like, Jesus Christ, you guys, give me a break.
I know. And that's why you see, if you look at my initial family. You know, I was radicalized before I went to medical school. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I had very unique experiences of the failure of the medical system. So I didn't go in with any starry-eyed idea of,
Right.
oh my God, we're
Doctors
gonna
are God.
yeah, no. Doctors were Aunt Harriet and Uncle Robert, and they were fallible humans who thought they were all this in a bag of chips, but they were not.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the joke, what's the difference between God and a doctor?
Yeah, what is the punchline? I forgot.
God
God
doesn't think
doesn't
he's a
think he's
doctor.
a doctor, right?
Well,
Uh,
how is all this shaped your worldview? If you could describe your worldview, and I'm asking you this question for a very important reason because you know I've studied depth psychology very extensively and Steiner's teachings and a lot more, and you know even some of the great quantum physicists came to this conclusion that there's nothing more real than the perceptual faculty of the psyche. Nothing can be real if it's not real in your psyche. This is why placebo works, right?
yeah,
If you
yeah,
believe it'll work because
right.
your psyche is more powerful than the drug is. And what people like Erwin Schrödinger, Carl Jung, Joseph Campbell, and a long list of others concluded was your worldview is really the benchmark. It is the bedrock of the experience that you have and how you relate to others and what do you think is or isn't good, or where you do or don't invest your time and your energy, how you see people of different colors, races, creeds, different religions. In other words, you know, your worldview is really your fundamental myth, whether it's conscious or unconscious, and it actually creates the experience you have, from every cell in your body to your perceptions to your way you use money, the way you relate to sex and marriage and people and life. When people heal, I've helped a lot of people heal and get over, you know, serious challenges with dogmatic religious ideologies, isms, cult behaviors and beliefs, and their whole way of living changes, their whole way of life changes. And I can give you an example of exactly that from medical experience. I've had a number of cases where women had their uterus removed because doctors told them they needed it to be removed,
Yeah,
and other situations, but their pain did not go away. And they
yep,
went back to the doctor and said, you know, I still have the pain. And the doctor says, well, it must be in your head because your uterus isn't there, so it can't be hurting. But being clairvoyant, the energy field of the uterus is still there. And so
correct.
is the psychological and emotional trauma that hasn't been healed. And that's what the pain is coming from. And so when I've worked with people like this to heal the actual trauma and to reshape their perception of it and turn the pain and the challenge into an opportunity to have a deeper level of empathy and compassion for themselves, for others, and to see it as an opportunity to now take that awareness of their healing out to touch other women with these problems and other people with these problems, that their whole way of living changes, their whole level of inner stress, anxiety, fear, what's valuable, what's not so valuable changes, kind of like a near-death experience changes a person's worldview. So I'm saying this as a preface to ask you, you know, all this experience, what has it led to you as a worldview in a world right now where, you know, we're in a very, very unstable time?
My world was kind of turned upside down a bit with what happened starting in 2020, because I went from being very well
Yes.
respected to being suddenly, you know, on a hit list for the global people. And then I read in Ephesians, I think it's 6:12, we battle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities of darkness and world governors that are not of this world. And it's not
Yes.
our job to fight them, it
Mm.
is our job to expose them.
I hope you guys are enjoying the podcast. I sure am.
By now, most everyone has heard of the healing power and wide variety of nutritional benefits we gain when taking Shilajit minerals. As good as it is, it doesn't taste good at all. Imagine eating rotting rocks that have passed the due date. You're probably about right. But there is an exceptional way I get my daily doses of Shilajit that tastes fantastic. That's Organifi's Shilajit gummies. The texture and consistency of the gummies is excellent, and they have just enough natural sweetness to make me feel like I'm getting a lovely, healthy treat that both my body and mind can enjoy. The only problem with Organifi's Shilajit gummies is that you have to hide them when friends are around, and the kids too, or you'll go through 2 bags in no time. Shilajit is a unique mineral paste from the Himalayan mountains. It contains an abundance of trace minerals, antioxidants, organic acids, and nutrient-transporting compounds. It has been known throughout history to boost vitality and strength. Just pop a couple of gummies in and chew or suck them slowly for a steady release of the delicious, earthly, but slightly sweet natural flavor. Your taste buds will enjoy the delicious treat while your body soaks up massive amounts of feel-good nutrition. Rich with fulvic acid, humic acid, vitamins, enzymes, bioflavonoids, antioxidants, metabolites, and over 40 trace minerals, Shilajit gummies can help support energy production, support performance and recovery, support healthy muscles, promote collagen synthesis, promote healthy hormone levels, increase cellular energy, decrease fatigue, promote health. I absolutely love Organifi's Shilajit gummies, and I love knowing that there's something sweet that I can eat that doesn't come with all the challenges most sweet stuff does. If you'd enjoy something tasty that enhances nutrient variety, delivers the minerals your body needs, and helps you look and feel great, don't wait. Get your Shilajit gummies now. Hint, don't just buy 1 bag because they'll be gone before you know it. Get your 20% Spirit Gym discount on your Shilajit gummies. Go to Organifi.com/Chek20. That's Organifi, ORGANIFI.com/Chek20 to get your 20% discount on these amazing nutritious gummies. Yeah, good.
Then I just began to realize, oh, okay, I've always known that there are frequencies that we can't see.
Mm-hmm.
There are dimensions that we cannot see.
Mm-hmm.
And that what Jesus came, when Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the light, or life, whatever it is in the chapter of John,
Mm-hmm.
he's talking about, I'm not here to give you a religion. I'm here to show you the way out of the matrix.
Yes. Yeah.
And so when Jesus said, these things and more ye shall do also,
Mm-hmm.
then that's telling us who we are as human beings made in the image of God. We are born with godlike abilities that we are talked out of,
Yes.
starting in utero. Because
Mhm.
I remember being shocked, Paul, in the 90s. By then I was not doing obstetrics anymore. When they started to give pregnant women flu and DPT shots. Like, are you kidding? You're telling women to avoid tuna, and then you're injecting them with these shots.
Full of
And
mercury
yeah, all
and
the
aluminum.
all the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then injecting people with the COVID thing and pregnant women. And right around that time, I found a group of OBGYNs, including Dr. James Thorpe, maternal fetal medicine.
He's a real big
The-
teacher to my favorite medical doctor, along with you, is Nathan Riley, MD, who's our family OBGYN.
Really?
Yeah.
Nathan is? I love it. I love
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
I do
so-
too. He's soul brother. He's been
Yeah.
on my podcast several times.
Oh my God, that is so great to hear. Well, anyway, here's James. He's seeing what he's seeing and wrote a book about it called Sacrifice that I wrote the foreword for. And we were horrified by what we were seeing. And to this day, right now, the American College of OBGYN is still recommending that shot in pregnant women. And
I know, it's mind-blowing.
and the American College of OBGYN no longer has the word mother in it. It's got birthing parent, and it's got
It's just
chest feeding.
stupid.
So-
I don't have any other word for it.
So what you're saying is we are at a time that's been foretold.
Sure, Steiner warned of it extensively.
Yeah, the Great Awakening or the Ascension, or, if you're Christian, the Book of Revelation, which, I think the end times. It is the end times. No, I think it's the end times for all the dark energies,
Yeah,
not for us. That's what I really believe.
sure.
So, my feeling is this, and my going forward in the world teaching is this: we are made in the image of God, and there's all kinds of layers that have been put on there. So why you don't know that,
Mm-hmm.
and it serves the global parasites
Mm-hmm.
that you not know that. And
Yes.
so my job, nothing I haven't been doing for 40 years, is to teach how do you live as a person made in the image of God?
Yeah.
How do you do that? And without religion, I'm not talking about religion. I mean, come on, aren't there 6,000 denominations of Christianity? Jesus did
45,000.
no.
Yeah, I just researched it about a year ago because of I'm writing a 15-volume book series, so I thought I'm curious how many there is now. Years ago, I'd researched it was like 16,000, and it was actually a Christian research organization that has the information. There's over 200 bigger classes, but there's 45,000 denominations, each claiming to have the authentic teachings of Jesus. And one of
No.
my friends, who's a very smart guy, didn't believe it. So I sent him the actual resource so he could go look it up for himself, which means it's completely confused. But there's something I want to share with you in that regard.
Mhm.
How do you live in the image of God, to use your words? You use your heart to feel what you know.
Oh, I love it. That's really true. And it's never going to be a head trip ever. I
No,
mean,
only the heart can deliver truth to
yeah.
the head.
Well, this is why in the Bible it said it's harder for a rich man to go through, for a camel to go through the eye of the needle than a rich man
To,
to get into the
yeah.
kingdom of God. I want to give you an example of that. So I spoke with a guy today I had known from way, way back, and he lives on Nantucket. And that's, Fantasy Island, Nantucket, because all of the, very, very wealthy people live there. At the beginning of COVID, one of the heads of, the parasite globalist things flies in to Nantucket in his private plane, bringing with him 5 ventilators,
Oh,
just in case.
Jesus.
Just in
Just in
case.
case.
Now
Yeah.
think of being that afraid. Okay, you have all that money and you're that afraid. Meanwhile, you go out to your little thing and get bit by a rattlesnake, but you know what to do because you know you are made in the image of God and you have dominion over this physical body. Mr. Google or whatever he is has no idea. He's
Right.
in his head here and I'm going to find the best person, at the head of the Mass General and the head of the Memorial Sloan Kettering. And, I've been there. I trained with those guys.
Yeah.
I saw their feet made of clay
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
You got to get that indwelling, Emmanuel, God within. And you're right.
Mhm.
You can only know it through the heart. You're never going to know
Yeah.
it with more books.
When I got bit by the rattlesnake, I got real still. I laid on the ground and I told
Yeah.
people, stop talking to me, because everybody was scared. My kids were scared. Angie and Penny were scared. My buddy Kyle was concerned. And we had a famous shaman here visiting us to teach a drum making workshop, and she was wanting to do healing work. And I said, listen, I need all of you to get away from me because I have to get real still right now. And I got to talk to my soul.
Right.
And I got to ask my soul what to do. And I can't do it with all your nervous energy around me. So please just really be quiet right now. And I said to my soul, look, I do my best to love and protect all living beings all the time. We all do here. That's our way we live. I said, I need you to tell me what to do. If I'm supposed to learn a lesson from this, if this is some kind of an initiation and I just have to go through this, then tell me what I've got to do to navigate this, because I'd rather not go to the hospital and get poisoned again. The freaking rattlesnake venom, anti-venom, is 15,000 a vial. A buddy of mine has had bit 3 times, and each time it's took 3 vials.
Whoa.
An anatomy teacher that I had many years ago, Charlene Penner, got bit, took 4 vials, and it's loaded with mercury. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what's worse, the anti-venom or the venom. So I just said to my soul, I mean, I will do whatever you want me to do. If I'm supposed to experience the pain of this, if you want me to not go to the hospital, even if it damn near kills me, just tell me what I need to do.
Yeah.
And my soul said, look, go to the hospital just in case, but just calm yourself, freeze your foot as cold as you can get it, and you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And so I just held that vision of myself. And like I said, then I talked to the spirit of the rattlesnake because, I do these things and I know these things are real because I've been doing it for a long time. And when the snake spirit said to me, you're not going to be harmed, we know it was an accident. I just trusted that. And lo and behold, 2 hours later, I walked out of the hospital and, I had some strange symptoms for a few days. It felt like I had glass stuck in my toe where I got bit, and it was quite painful to walk. It was literally like a nail or something was stuck.
Yeah.
But it was the venom still in there. And then my vision got really bad. Everything was like I was looking through a dirty windshield. No matter what glasses I put on or anything, I couldn't get my vision clear. It was like dirty vision. And I'm like, wow, this is weird. I don't know what to do about this. My soul said, just wait, it'll clear up. And 4 days later, I woke up in the morning, looked at myself in the mirror and I could see. I went, oh my God, my vision's back. It took 4 days and it must've been the venom in my body,
Oh yeah.
messing with me. But other than that, I didn't have any pain, just in the toe and just the vision, and the cotton mouth cleared up after about 2 hours. And that sort of weird buzz took about 6 hours to go away. So I could feel my energy field coming back into my body. But, all I'm saying is there's an example of a worldview, right? Isn't that just the truth?
Yeah.
So
That's it. Yes.
if you can sort of encapsulate your worldview into a statement, what would it be?
We are made in the image of God and we can heal anything.
And, in my library, Christiane, I have multiple books written by healers showing x-rays and scans and all sorts of stuff that by medical establishment evaluation could not be healed.
That's right.
And every one of them had miraculous healings. I mean, I'm talking about spines that are very broken and organs that are failing and tumors the size of grapefruits, things pressing on people's brain to the point that they're going completely unconscious. And there is a shift within that person, oftentimes when they realize that struggling is not working and that they have to just ask God for help, or they have to let go and trust.
Yeah.
Or healers have come in, and I've got piles of research on the things that healers have been able to do, scientific research. And I think the public is just totally misinformed about, and I'm not saying there's not a place for medicine. I know you're not either, but I'm saying things have to be held in context, right? If we're, it's coming up later, but I'll ask you now, the Hippocratic Oath, as you know, is first do no harm. And it's like when COVID hit, I was just absolutely, I don't have words for it. I was just like, what in the world?
Yeah.
I mean, there's not even any information on the insert on these vaccines about what's in them or what the side effects or anything. And they're injecting people, and not one single person has ever seen any physical evidence of this virus. This is like a chimera. This is, and as an ex-soldier, brainwashing philosophy, because I went through basic training, that's exactly what they do. I'm like, this is straight up brainwashing strategies. And
yeah.
So my question is, what happened inside of you when you saw that many physicians worldwide completely aborting the Hippocratic Oath?
I thought I was stunned, because in my own world, Paul, I was working in a world where I had affiliate business partners and all of that. And they almost to a person dropped me like a hot potato, like people I've worked with for 30 years.
Yeah.
So that to me was that we battle not against flesh and blood, that regular people were overtaken
Yeah.
by the spirit of fear. And it was so huge. And what you say, and the fear of death. And then look at the way the media played into it, where you'd have this sort of ticker tape like the Dow Jones Industrial Average across the bottom of the screen with the positive PCR test, which is a crap test. It doesn't really
It's
do
bullshit.
and and so they didn't have the number of people. Well, a diagnosis with the test means nothing.
Yeah.
But everything was a manipulation. But the thing that was so amazing was the incredibly well orchestrated
Yes.
censorship and cancellation
Yeah.
agenda. Like suddenly, I mean, that's fine. People, not wanting to go along with what I said. I'm used to that. But suddenly the hatred,
Yeah.
anything. And then the fact that you couldn't even post, like I put stuff by Russell Blaylock, a very, very well-respected neurosurgeon, about masking. You couldn't even post it on Facebook. So this was an AI situation that
Yeah.
just landed on people. And here's the thing, Paul. I was kind of used to being a pioneer, and I had stood the test of time, and I had, the media way back in the day that didn't even believe that the mind and the body are connected,
Yeah.
so I had to do media training and try to get across that the mind and the body were connected. And, but suddenly it was literally venomous, just venomous.
Yeah.
And most people cannot stand that degree of ridicule. They have
Yeah.
not stood in the flame. The rust hasn't been burned off. They haven't been in
Yeah.
the crucible, and it's too hard for
Mhm.
them. So it was easier to cancel me. Like my daughters would get phone calls. What are you going to do about your mother? I mean, and so what do they do? It's name calling.
Give her a hug.
Yeah, what are you going to do about her? Oh, and good friends of mine were told, have you seen how she's lost her mind? This person has lost her mind. And but here's what's my worldview is this really. Okay. And that is there was a certain number of us. I'm friends with Alex Collier, the Andromedan contactee, and Alex is a former Army Ranger, and I adore him. And he said, the one I like, the narrative I like is 200 million of us came back in time to right a great wrong. And it's like suddenly there was a wave that went out, a signal, and then boop, you remember, and you can't even tell who those people are. It could be an 8th grade educated person doing the plumbing at my brother's trailer park. You didn't know. And I'll tell you who it wasn't. It wasn't people with MD, PhDs from Harvard. It wasn't those
Right.
people. It was regular who suddenly saw it. And
Mhm.
then what we did is we went down the rabbit holes, and we quickly, we saw the, Out of Shadows official and Fall of the Cabal and, and the Mockingbird media, stuff that had been going on. Begin to realize for decades, this was not new. And we go, oh, okay. We didn't say, oh, that can't be true, because you already knew about Hoxsey, and you knew all these natural cures that have been held down. You know about the Flexner Report and John D. Rockefeller, and we've known about all of this stuff forever. And Andrew Saul saying the reason they didn't use vitamin C, he looked right in the camera in 2020. Looks right in the camera. Why haven't they used vitamin C if it's working? He looks in the camera and he goes, Satan. I'll never like, oh, wow. Okay.
One of the favorite drinks at the Chek household is Paleo Valley's bone broth. Whether you're looking for a sweet or savory treat or a boost to your baking, soups and stews, Paleo Valley's grass-fed bone broth protein is the answer. It's rich in collagen and the amino acids glycine and proline, which can help support healthy gut function. And it's made from the bones of 100% grass-fed animals, unlike many other collagen products which use animal hides instead. Paleo Valley's bone broth protein is super easy to use. Just blend a scoop into hot water, coffee or tea, blend it into your favorite smoothie, or add to any recipe or baked treat for a protein boost. And it's now available in a brand new flavor, turmeric ginger. This golden spicy blend is perfect for a warming drink on a cold autumn afternoon. Or choose the Chek kids' favorite flavor, although they can't actually decide if this is the chocolate option or the salted caramel. If you prefer a savory drink, Paleo Valley's Savory Original has you covered, and it also comes in creamy vanilla and an unflavored option. So try Paleo Valley's bone broth protein and save 15% on your purchase by going to paleovalley.com/Chek15. I know you're going to love it no matter which flavor you try. So save 15% at paleovalley.com/Chek15.
I got to tell you something funny. I was so absolutely, I'll just be polite, irritated when this whole thing came down and the lockdowns happened. I just said, okay, I got to get real still. And so I went to my soul and I said, you realize what's going on right now is absolutely insane. And I said to my soul, did we know this was going to happen before we incarnated? Right. And my soul said, you incarnated because this was going to happen.
That is correct.
And that's why you're here. Don't forget that.
This is it for such a time as this. Yeah. I really got it. It's like, oh, I get it. All the lawsuits, all of this, all the Oprah shows, all the PBS stuff. It was all for this right now. Yeah. And that's kind of exciting. I mean, I'm at a time when my colleagues are all retiring or dead or whatever. And I'm just getting started.
Yeah. It was funny hearing you talk about the reason retirement age is 65. I'm like, that's next year for me. Shit.
Yeah.
Good thing I love to paint.
Right. And it's a good thing you don't agree with the Matrix here.
No.
And what it's going to do, see, what I tell people who are over the age of, let's say, 55 and actually grew up without a cell phone and know how to make eye contact and still know how to critically think, it is essential, everybody, that we stay vibrantly healthy because we are living libraries. You and I talking about Michio Kushi, Carolyn Mace, all of this stuff. These were the pioneers. I mean, let me tell you. I mean,
Paul Bragg.
Yep.
Jack LaLanne. That was my hero when I was young. Jack LaLanne.
My God. Yes, with his German Shepherd. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yeah. And so these are the people who were the pioneers. And then, then we went through, okay, everyone's into organic food and the mind-body connection. And then those are all the people who fell off the truck when COVID hit. It's like, wait a minute.
I'm like, there's 1,000 things I could say about that, but I won't derail us from so many other things I want to talk to you about. But what I will share is that, and this takes a really mature person spiritually to understand, I have to remind people, God loves all of this.
Yes.
God loves it all.
Yeah.
People get caught in a dualistic idea of the devil on one side and God on the other. And I'm like, if you believe that, you realize that you're missing a fundamental question. Because if there's two gods, you have to say who created them. If there's a devil, then it's a creation of God. And Isaiah 45:7 says, I create the light and the dark, good and evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. And sadly, a lot of Christians just don't want to look at that. But the reality it is, unconditional love is unconditional, so it cannot be conscious of itself. The only way God can know God is to create a duality and step into it fully to realize its own potentials. So God has to go into the dark as much as it goes into the light, or you cannot have consciousness. God can't awaken to itself. That which is unconditional cannot have any conditions. And that's a, Osho says, if you can't understand a paradox, if you cannot handle a paradox, you'll never understand God. there's so many things about God that are completely paradoxical. I don't want to give people the impression that I'm pro-evil. I'm not.
No. But yeah, I get it. Oh, by the way, I have a 7 o'clock thing with the 5 docs that I have to do. So that's in 20 minutes.
Oh, that's terrible.
I know.
Well, let me just go through here real fast, and I want to get into this. There's 2 things I want to get into before we part company, so I'll let you be as efficient. One of the things is maybe you can give us an overview, because you and I have privately talked about my concerns with synthetic hormones, both for women and for men, and all the problems that creates. But as I know you're aware right now, there is a massive upsurge in young men being put on testosterone replacement. I mean, everybody and their dog, even some of the people that I never would have expected to fall hook, line, and sinker for this have. I've seen it cause lots of problems. I've known men that were on it for 5, 6, 7 years, and then their sperm count got so low that they couldn't get their partner pregnant. Testicular shrinkage, all the stuff that goes with it. And most people haven't got a clue the difference between bioidentical hormones and synthetics. That's been going on with women. I had that problem clinically over and over again. And I had to, it was the only way I could get around it was I had to, every time I would address this with a woman, she'd say, well, that's what my doctor said I had to do. And I said, well, I got news for you. You have the freedom to choose another doctor. So I was forever sending people to doctors that had more of a holistic orientation and would actually do the work of being a doctor instead of just selling what the drug companies wanted them to sell. What are your thoughts on this issue, both of women and men being put on so much synthetic hormones, and what do you think's driving this, all this craziness, instead of people being educated about how to take care of themselves?
Well, it's just the same old, same old. I mean, I happened to be a resident when Premarin came in, which is the first widely available estrogen that wasn't an intramuscular shot. And this is made from the urine of pregnant horses, Premarin, pregnant mares.
Right.
And they don't even have a generic of it because they can't figure out how to make it. You have to, bleed a horse dry or have them stand in stalls and collect all of their urine, and then they kill all the male foals that come as a result. So the Premarin farms are kind of awful. I've been on the front lines of this from the very beginning. So what you want to do, if you're going to replace hormones, you want to use the lowest dose that does the job, and it should identify exactly like what your ovary would produce, or your body fat, or your adrenals. The first thing you want to do is get the nutrients you need so that your body can make the conversions of DHEA, which your adrenals make, to the sex steroid hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. And there are herbs that have been used for centuries that can really, really, really help, that are adaptogens. If you give exogenous sex steroids, your own body's ability to produce them will go down. It's just a biofeedback mechanism. No wonder they get testicular shrinkage. So again, what you want to set up is, you want to set up the conditions where your body knows how to do what God made it to do. So we know, for instance, there's an ancient practice from ancient Greece called aeronation, where men run nude on the beach. Why? Because the sunlight bouncing off the sand hits the testicles and their testosterone increases. We know that natural light increases testosterone. Why you get out in the sun. Men and women both need this. And what we're around, and of course this is Dr. Jack Kruse contribution, we're around blue light from the computer, the television, that decreases testosterone. So you need enough cholesterol. One of the awful things that they're doing is these statin drugs. My God. So that makes you demented, gives you muscle aches and pains, doesn't do anything for you. So you want to do everything in your power to get the body replete with minerals and B vitamins, healthy fats, so that your body can make what it needs. Now, in men and increasingly in women, we have this dopamine addiction from porn, which most
Uh-huh.
boys are knowing about from the age of 11. Now, if you're anywhere near a cell phone or a computer, that's going to come on, and that's a large part of how they traffic children.
Yeah.
And so you need to stay away from porn, which is the most addictive. And then what happens to get that dopamine hit, which
Mm-hmm.
adversely affects testosterone? I mean, you know, one of the number one things that urologists are seeing is 19, 20-year-olds with erectile dysfunction.
Yes, I see a lot of that.
Yeah.
I've had 19 and 20-year-old athletes ask me how to get off of Viagra. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's happened many times.
What we need is to get people back grounding on the land, or at least, you know, pulse electromagnetic fields of some sort on the land, structured water, natural light, and the body will heal itself. But
Mm-hmm.
think about it. In the 70s, in the 60s, they started in with things that would lead to the depopulation agenda. So we had
Yes.
Hugh Hefner,
Mm-hmm.
Playboy, all
Yeah.
the Hollywood stuff, um,
Mm-hmm.
and the music industry, sex, drugs,
Drugs.
rock and roll.
Yeah.
And this has wrecked families and people's ability to, and men's ability to have their erections come from their hearts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Mark Goffney, who is a Jewish rabbi, but a very, very sharp guy, he describes pornography as pseudo eros. He said the nature of the eros of God is to penetrate and create novelty. And when you're engaging pornography, you cannot penetrate, nor can you create novelty. So you get a false eros. And
So
so that's kind of like, it's kind of like a shadow. It's like a doppelganger. It's, you know, in other words, it's actually, you're using the vital life fluids. You're throwing it away. You're giving your essence to nothing, to an illusion, right? Which is part of the problem with all the AI and all the illusion generating factor, which is, you know, in Steiner's term, very Luciferian.
yes, and it's all false light. It's
Yeah.
an inversion. Yeah. So I
Now,
think where we're going is we will be creating communities of people where we're going to enhance fertility, true relationships, the right relationship with the soil, with each other, and so on. I mean,
that's
we've
what I've
got
been teaching for 40 years.
exactly. But we've gotten so far off that the pendulum is swinging. You know, we now know, I listened to Charlie Kirk, and he said, there are more conservative young men now than there have been in 50 years.
Conservative meaning what?
Conservative meaning monogamy, and believing in God.
Common sense.
Common sense, yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, yeah. Not so much conservative, you know, politically, but conservative in, okay, listen, let's work for a living, let's do
Yeah.
something that you love, that kind of thing, yeah.
Good. The pendulum's coming back. A couple of things too, because I'm 64 and I'm still a lot stronger than most young men.
Yeah.
Most people that listen to my podcast know there's pictures of me building giant rock stacks and things out there. And I've studied weightlifting and physiology extensively. And one of the things that I found earlier in my career, it was when I was about 47, I noticed that my body wasn't responding the same. But I found as long as I lifted weights that were heavier than 8 RM, 8 repetitions max. So I had to lift something that I could only lift 8 or less times.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to do that at least 2 to 3 times a week. And I found that it would bring my testosterone levels up.
Yes.
And I could leave the gym feeling younger and stronger and more vital. And where I used to train till I was completely fried, I started training till I had a good workout, but I wasn't draining the tank. I was always leaving a little something in the tank, so I wasn't cooking the system off so heavily. And I found that switching to shorter workouts, where I used to be in the gym for hour and 20, I would now go shorter workouts, 30 to 45 minutes. And I found that that was important. The other thing that I found is that one, all the natural whole food stuff you got to do, and everything you and I know about that foundation's got to be there. But I found that because I work with so many men that they're younger than me, but they look a lot older than me, and so and so one of the kind of slogans I came up is act young to be young. Don't keep telling yourself you're old and becoming a fuddy-duddy. Move the boxes, help the women, get exercise. Don't let this aging mindset take your mind over, or your body's going to believe it.
Well, that's why I wrote Goddesses Never Age. I'm telling you, all the research in here is, I mean, it starts with, I just don't tell people my age. I tell everyone, I don't want to know how old you are, because I don't want my body to know. I figure we should all stop putting a number on birthdays at age 33. Symbolically, that's the year Christ died. After that,
That's the year transitioned, not died.
That's right. That's very good. That's transition. Yeah.
Are you tired of feeling stuck? Whether you're stuck in your health, your career, or your daily routine, getting out of a rut can feel overwhelming. But here's an opportunity to escape that rut, to break out and transform your life from the inside out. No matter what you feel has been holding you back, you can make a lasting change and reach your physical and mental goals and dreams. The Chek Academy is the answer, bringing you fulfillment and purpose with step-by-step assistance, guidance, and learning. You'll be equipped to improve your health and, if you choose, guide others through their transformation too. Because the Academy schedule is designed to accommodate those with full-time jobs, you can make this life-changing leap while still managing your regular day-to-day commitments. In year one, you'll gain tools and strategies that really work, not quick fixes that are not sustainable. Starting with Paul's book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, which helps to build healthy habits, you'll grow on this foundation in Holistic Lifestyle Coach Level 1 online. Integrated Movement Science Level 1 online and Integrated Movement Science Level 1 online and the prerequisites will show you how to exercise with confidence and precision. Chek mentors and faculty are there to guide and support you as you progress, as well as the community of your fellow students in the Chek Academy. The fall enrollment is closing soon, so get your application submitted now. Go to chek.group/Chek Academy. Don't wait any longer to make your vision your reality. Come join the Chek Academy and become your absolute best self. Apply now at chek.group/Chek Academy.
The other thing that you told me, which I wanted to make sure we shared, is you told me that because we have lots of goats and we milk our goats, in our conversation together, you said, Paul, goat's milk helps elevate testosterone levels. And I didn't know that. I think that's a phenomenal little piece of information right there.
Yes, it is. There's a guy on Instagram who wrote a book on biblical health, and he points out goat's milk raises testosterone. It's raw goat's milk is sort of better than just about anything you can be eating, and it's also fantastic for babies.
Yeah, it's the closest to human mother's milk, according to my studies.
That's right. That's right. So goat's milk is the thing to do. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, well, we've got lots of it. My kids love it. Angie makes our own cheese. She makes tons of stuff. We got our own chickens. We got a farm, so we're making sure our kids grow up with common sense. I know you don't have a lot of time. Do you have time for one more question before
One more question. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I wanted to ask you, the whole financial issue here is going crazy. Nobody really knows what to do. I've talked to a lot of very wealthy people and said, you know, what the hell should we be doing with money right now?
Yeah.
And even the top guys, Wall Street experts, friends of mine that are very successful in Wall Street say nobody knows. So the best thing to do is diversify your investments so that, you know, if one collapses, you aren't left with nothing. How are you handling that? And I mean, I followed your lead recently with Amy Fournier's suggestion, because she's, you know, very studied on the money issue, and she knows you. So she led me to the 7K Metals program, which I did join. It just took me a while due to just being so busy and having so much of my money tied up in this property.
Right.
But when I studied the 7K Metals program, I thought it was a very, very unique program. But, you know, I've also interviewed experts on Bitcoin and all sorts of stuff. So there's people that say that the metals aren't going to be as stable, and they have all their excuses. But then history has shown that if there's one thing that does survive when currencies collapse like fiat currencies, it happened in China, it's happened all over the world, that it's precious metals, it's silver and gold. Where do you stand on all this, and what's your take on it? I'm sorry to throw this at you at the very end of the podcast, but I wanted to make sure I asked you because I know you thoroughly research things like this, and I trust your judgment.
Well, and also what I tell people, gynecology is the study of money, sex, and power, because that's what is the second chakra. And Carolyn Reese used to say that the size of a man's wallet equals the size of his erection, which is fascinating. And she also said, and we wear our weapons around our second chakra: guns, knives, money around the wallet. So anyway, my feeling is, what I did is I put a bunch of my retirement savings into gold. I would tell you 7K Metals is the best thing I've ever done, and I'll tell you why. It is such a easy way, even a small amount of money, $10 a month, stick it into gold or silver. Their sound money wallet technology, they've had the big guys want to pay them billions of dollars to get this software. It's the only system I know where you can put money into gold and silver, you watch it go up, but if you need it, you can get it liquidated and into your bank account almost instantly. I think it is the coolest thing ever. And I love this company. I was just out in Idaho Falls with all of the owners, visiting the vault, visiting the whole thing. I am a big fan because...
So you're saying it's actually there, unlike the treasury.
Right. And this is the other thing. I have some money, you know, some of my 401k in a vault, you know, like in Texas. However, let me tell you what happens when you need some of that money. You got to call your broker. Then you got to fill out all the paperwork for the vault. Then you got to do, oh my God, you know, by the time you're done,
it's like buying a house or something.
3 months have gone by. Whereas with 7K, if I want to liquidate some of this, and by the way, the money that I have put in there, you know, when I first got into 7K, one of these, which is a silver eagle, American eagle, was $24. They're now $38.
Wow.
$38. And as you know, some states, I think Florida and Texas, maybe Arkansas, have made this stuff legal tender. You can.
Oh, good. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
That's actually a good sign.
It's a great
because
sign.
That's anti-digital right there.
That's it. So therefore, I feel like 7K, and I remember because it was in 2021, January 2021. And one of the people who'd come to my house, you know, questioning the whole narrative, said, I got to show you this. And when I saw Robert Kiyosaki, a big hero of mine, sit up and say, this is God's money, I thought, I need some of that. So it's not too late. I think it's going to rise up, especially silver, because silver is needed for so many tech things.
Yes.
So therefore, my feeling is you got to have some gold and silver. Period.
Yeah.
Story. If you want to do Bitcoin, or I do a little XRP, not a lot. My biggest investment now is in gold and silver. I just don't think you can go wrong. And especially when you can liquidate it so easily.
Yeah, I've watched all the videos. I've had meetings with your daughter, with Amy.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to jump too quickly into something like this because
No.
I'm not like I have all my money tied up in the Chek Institute and in my home and my property. So if I put what money I have in the wrong place and it comes back to bite me, then I'm really naked.
Yeah, right.
So I had to really do my due diligence, and I must say, like I no matter what angle I tried to counter argue the 7K system, I thought, you know, there's nothing I can lose here. There's only something to gain. And when I found out that you were in it, I mean, I've known of you and I've known your ethics and your values and your principles for a very long time. So when Amy told me that you were involved and you were her inspiration, I said, okay, well, now I'm much more interested. And that's what made me look into it.
Yeah.
So for those of you that are interested, if you want to learn more, there's a website you can go to. It's 7kmetals.com/Paul Chek. 7kmetals.com. I'm sorry, 7kmetals.com/Paul Chek. It'll be in the show notes. I really encourage you to check it out. I mean, I don't need to sell you guys on the instability of the financial market.
No.
But we know from thousands of years of history, when the shit hits the fan, it's the only thing that makes it through is precious metals.
That's right. That's right.
Know,
God's money. God's money.
You know, they have value. They always have value. And in a technological society, even if the shit hits the fan, metals are always going to be valuable because they're used in circuit boards and conductors and every other damn thing that's expensive to make and important to make. So it's pretty much a slam dunk. You can't go wrong. There might be other investments that turn out to be better for short periods of time, but they come and go, you know, like the weather. But we know for a fact that history has taught us that precious metals are reliable. So right. I think these are things to keep in mind. Well, Christiane, I could talk to you for so much longer. I just love you, and I'm just so grateful that you're still so vital and so strong, and I'm so grateful that you had the spiritual courage to make it through COVID and hold your values, your ethics, your morals, and be a shining light for others that were scared and confused and lost. And for every negative thing somebody said to you, I send you 1,000 hugs and kisses.
Oh, thank you, Paul. Thank you.
And if there's any place you want to send people to learn more about you, your resources or anything, what would you like to share in that regard as we close?
My website, drnorthrup.com, NORTHRUP, drnorthrup.com. And then I do most of my work now on Substack, True North. And I have a great community there, which is sort of, you know, like the daily stuff.
Right.
But it's all the links are over at drnorthrup.com.
Thank you. Thank you. 1,000 times, ancient priestess.
Thank you for that.
Who's seen the shit hit the fan over and over again.
That's right.
And isn't afraid of Satan.
No, not at all. All right. Thank you, Paul.
All right. Thanks to all you listeners, by the way. And thanks to our sponsors. You guys are amazing. Let's all make the world a better place together. Hold our hands, circle the globe, common sense. Protect the farmers, protect the soil, protect the food, protect the water, protect the sky, protect each other. And the truth is like cream. It always rises to the top. So be the change the world needs now and you'll be okay. Lots of love. I have something fantastic for you in a week. And I'm super grateful that we got to spend a couple of hours with one of the most amazing medical doctors that ever walked our planet. So lots of love, Christiane. I keep mixing your name up. Sorry.
That's okay.
It's one of those names that little E in the end makes a difference.
It does. All right.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Lots of love.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Gym with Paul Chek and today's guest, Dr. Christiane Northrup. Dr. Northrup is offering Paul's listeners a complimentary copy of her ebook, Should You Try Herbs to Support the Change, which is essential reading if you or anyone you know is struggling with menopause. To shop her product line for hormone balance, visit amatalife.com. That's AMATALIFE.com. You can find Dr. Northrup online at drnorthrup.com, on her Telegram channel t.me/Dr. Christiane Northrup, Facebook at Dr. Christiane Northrup, X at Dr. Chris Northrup, Truth Social at Dr. Northrup, and Instagram at Doctor of Divine Biology. You can also find her on Substack, True North by Christiane Northrup, MD. For more interaction with Paul, and to share ideas and ask questions about the topics discussed in this podcast, we invite you to join his Spirit Gym program and community. There are 3 levels of membership to fit your budget and lifestyle, and you can participate in live Q&A sessions with podcast guests. Access the members forum within the Spirit Gym community, where you can chat with other members, attend weekly virtual meetups with Paul, and study the comprehensive Master Key online program. Explore the options and subscribe today by going to myspiritgym.com. And finally, if you enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving us a 5-star rating and a warm review on the podcast platform of your choice. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, and YouTube.